What's going on YouTube? My name is Mr. Crippled, and I wanted to bring you my first impressions video, probably go over some abilities and go over some builds for the new Goddess Might 2 Hecate, but I'm not gonna do this time around. As I was labbing her and playing some matches with her, I found that she's pretty mid. I'm not gonna lie, pretty mid off of first impressions. Before I really dive deep into why I think that, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And if you would like to keep up with any future content that I have, I will be leaving a link to both my Twitch and my Discord in the description below. Now, Hecate, before we really get into it, is very obviously a mage, heavily scaling into intelligence. And she is both a DPS and a high utility mage. She comes with a shield, of mana and health pot that she could put on ally objectives. She can put a damage buff or give a damage buff to an ally who recently got a kill. She has like a mini Yanu's teleport for like the memes. And she has this really cool ability in her too, where every single time you cast an ability, it gains a stack. And at max stacks, it does absurd amounts of damage, even like dang near ult levels of damage, as you can see, dealing up to 977 magical damage when it's fully charged. She also comes with a mez, and she also comes with in her one, where if she hits an enemy, anytime an ally does damage to that god with an ability, they take additional damage from you. So all of it together sounds really good, and it sounds like a really fun character, but honestly, there's a lot wrong with her. First and foremost, the very obvious thing you're going to notice right away is the lack of a mobility move. She cannot run to save her life. So, building her full DPS is going to be a little bit of a hassle, especially with gods like Loki running around, or Fenrir, who can stun you and then ult you, right? Another issue that she has, for me, is the major part, is the utility part of her kit. Now, if you notice, on her one, you can notice that the portrait looks purple. When the portrait is purple, that's when you get the mist, as you can see. And then notice that it turns blue. Now that it's blue, you get the ability that does the extra tick damage. So you hit that, and then now they gotta sit there and hold that, right? And then keep in mind, I do have max CDR, I built nothing but item that had CDR besides the Rata-Tahuti there, and I still don't even have the cooldown starter. So that could fix the issue with her cooldowns, but that's what brings me to my next issue. Getting consistent damage with her is a struggle. Skill issue or not, the one, as you can see, is not that huge. It doesn't travel super fast, but it does have a pretty decently long range. But in this context, that your enemy is standing still. In high pressure situations, it's really difficult to hit not just one skill shot. She has two. And that could really put you in a really bad situation. And as you can see, there's no way to switch which ability you're on manually. So if you're on the blue stance, for example, and the Loki runs at you, well, you don't have your mez yet, so you had to throw this ability, hope it hits, and then wait for the cooldown on the one to come off, and then throw this and hope he gets messed. And I know what some people are thinking. Well, what about her 3? It gives her a magic shield, and that's true. This magic shield is kind of nice. It can come in clutch every once in a while, and as you can see, if you put it on yourself or an ally, it does damage. And a pretty decent chunk amount of damage too, about 632 plus 85% of your intelligence. Or it has 85% intelligence scaling, so it will scale harder. So yeah, it has a little bit of damage, and you know, it does give you movement speed. It gives you charges to your spell eater, which is cool. But that health shield is tiny. It's extremely tiny. By the time, and most people, and if correct me if I'm wrong, but it says it's only going to absorb magical damage. What about, I don't think it absorbs physical damage. Now, I have played in arena, like I said, dealing with a Loki, and I have put the shield on myself to try to keep myself from dying. So it could be possible that it spares your life a little bit, but even so, the shield is so small that any DPS or jungler rocking a Hydra is going to eat through that in one ability, and then a singular auto. And then another thing that I know people are going to say is that, well, what about the ult? You know, if you ult, if I reset him real quick, if you ult, you can just teleport him away. And then if they try to go on you, you can teleport to the ult. And all I gotta say is, well, of course, yeah, the ult is gonna be good for running away. I think the best part in her kit is the ult. Especially with the implications, you know, forcing them into your tower, or forcing them into a phoenix, or making the tank go over a wall. You know, there's a lot of implication with this, but the problem is that you're not always going to have your ult. It is on a fairly low cooldown, and again, I'm rocking an abundance of cooldown items to make up for that. But what you get with these cooldown build is not a lot of damage. There's not a lot of pen in this build either, and I'm pretty sure there's going to be a way to work past that. But the problem is that as a base character, she still doesn't have the CC or a threat about her. To me, she's very threatless. And I think the biggest problem with her, to me, is that none of her kits synergizes. She's supposed to be this utility mage, you know, make her teammates do more damage, put shields on her teammates. She can teleport people. She can put like a health and a mana pot on a tower. She can make your allies do damage. And again, I'm going to talk about that passive, because that passive is abysmal to me. But nothing will really combo into each other. Yeah, the tube comes off of a pretty quick cooldown, you know, 4 seconds, and then you put it back up. But now you have to stack this thing all over again. She has a mez, but if you're not in the correct stance at the right time, you die. If the health she does have a health shield that gives her movement speed, but movement speed doesn't matter if they can stun you, and she doesn't have a run move, and the health shield doesn't get bigger as you level it up. It's just there. And the best part about her ult is exactly that. It's the ult. She feels like she's missing something, like a slight buff or a slight change in her kit, because rocking her as a complete mage DPS, you know, yeah, you'll get the cooldowns, but then you run into the problem with the channeling times. As you can see, this is still fairly quick. It's still fairly quick, but mid to late game, if the ADC or the jungler is on top of you, you're dead. You're gonna die before the move even comes out if they built properly. And if they don't, beats. You know what I'm saying? And then the problem with her passives, right? The best part about her passive is the health and the mana pot. But that giving the damage bonus, and I could be wrong, but the fact that you have to wait until after a god is killed, you can't put it on yourself either. And it's only there for a finite amount of time. So early game, yeah, that could be really good. You know, you're playing mid, the jungler comes over, y'all get a kill, you put the passive on him, and then he can go gang somewhere else with extra damage. That's nice. But in a high pressure situation, let's say like it's a mid to late game, y'all are trying to push as a team, you're not going to have time to just sit there and put the buff on somebody, because one, they had to recently kill somebody. If they haven't killed anybody, then you can't put the passive on them. And then, on top of that, they have to sit there for 2 seconds while you channel it. 2 seconds means a lot. You'll die in 2 seconds in a lot of engagements. So that begs the question, is she supposed to be a solo laner? Because solo lane mage, you know, you can make that work. You know, not a lot of CC, but just has a lot of damage utility. But again, the problem is that she doesn't have anything to lock you down besides the mez. And once this is down, because it's on such a mediocre line, you're not going to hit multiple people with this in most cases. Most cases, you're going to hit one person. And then it's a mez, so the second they take any other bit of damage, they're going to be out of the stun. And it's not like it lasts long anyway. It lasts literally maybe a second. So the mez isn't even scary. The only scary thing about her kit is the ult. And the best way I saw it was when I was playing an arena match. My teammate was getting ran at. And even though I had everything off of cooldown, there was nothing I could do to stop them from running at him, because she's a mage with basically single target DPS, and the only thing that splashes and does decent damage is her too, which takes time to build up. So it just feels like she's not fully complete. I feel like if they tweak the ability of her first ability and make you be able to switch the forms, you know, they've had it in Smite 1, you know, Merlin's stance switches, just have it activate like a stance switch. You know, you tap it, it brings up an article, it brings up a different HUD where you had to pick between two of the abilities, and then you pick the one that you want to use, and then it goes on normal cooldown. That would work perfectly for her. I feel like this shield should cover more allies if they're standing next to me. It shouldn't just cover one person. I also think the shield should scale higher depending on how much intelligence that you have. You know, if you're gonna fully focus into DPS, then you should be rewarded for focusing into DPS, and the shield should mean something. The ult is fine. I think the ult doesn't need to be tweaked at all. There's so much you could do with that ult, and it's scary. I think any god with this ult would be crazy. It's just that this one she can't really do anything with it. And I think the passive needs to be tweaked. The first part of the passive is fine, but I think that the recently killed a god should be tweaked to either had a kill or recently had an assist. And I think the buff itself should last longer. It doesn't need to be permanent, but I do think it needs to last longer. And I think they should take away the channeling time for that specifically. The channeling time for the tower seems fine. Keep that in the game because it lasts indefinitely, and you can put it on any objective that you want that's on your side. And it works perfectly fine. I think that's fine. I don't know about her damage scaling. Given that the game just came out and builds are still kind of all over the place. You know, this build that I'm rocking doesn't even have a starter, and I think that this does fix the cooldown issue, but it doesn't fix the damage issue. I think that could be fixed though. Maybe take off my World Stone, put on a stackable item, make it do it that way. Maybe focus more into Pen with a little bit of cooldown. I don't know. But at the moment, I think Hecate needs a little bit of help. I think at the end of the day, she's just skating by. But let me know what you think in the comments below. Thank y'all for your time today, and y'all have a nice rest of your day.